A 7-year-old girl stood motionless in the heart of a packed carnival, entirely alone as waves of strangers surged past her. Her mother had always taught her a peculiar rule. If you ever get lost and cannot find a police officer, look for someone wearing motorcycle patches. Now, separated from her mom and surrounded by a sea of unfamiliar faces, she was about to find out if that advice still held true. Earlier that evening, the Fairhaven Boardwalk Carnival was in full swing. Music blared from the speakers of carnival rides. Children screamed joyfully from roller coasters, and the air was thick with the sweet scent of funnel cakes and fried food. Not the kind of place any parent wanted to lose sight of their child. And yet, that is exactly what had happened to Maria Taylor. For years, Maria had repeated one unusual rule to her daughter Emma. If you ever get lost, find a police officer. But if you cannot, look for someone wearing motorcycle patches. Emma had shared this rule in class once, and her teachers had been baffled. Most parents warned their children to avoid bikers, not approach them. But Maria had a reason. 12 years earlier, before Emma was even born, Maria had found herself broken down on Highway 17. 3 months pregnant, bruised, and running from a man who had nearly ended her life. She had no hope, no money, and a useless car. That is when a group of bikers came across her. They fixed her vehicle, gave her enough money for a motel, and made sure she reached safety. They asked for nothing in return. One female rider named Nora had noticed Maria's bruises and simply squeezed her hand, saying, "Whatever you're running from, you do not have to go back." Maria never forgot that night. Until then, she had been like most people in Fairhaven, crossing the street when bikers rode into town. Her own father used to say that those people meant nothing but trouble. But those strangers in leather had not just repaired her car. They had formed a shield around her, keeping her safe in case her ex came looking. That night changed her perspective, and later, her entire life. She finished nursing school, started working at the local VA clinic, and returned to Fairhaven to raise Emma. Though she never saw those bikers again, she called them her angels in leather, and she made sure her daughter would remember them too. Now Emma stood near the tilt-a-whirl ride, crushed cotton candy in one hand and rising panic in her chest. One moment, her mom had been right next to her. The next, a crowd of rowdy teens had rushed past, separating them like a flood. Emma had shouted for her mother until her voice was hoarse, but no one paid her any mind over the booming noise of the carnival. She had spotted a security guard once, but he vanished into the crowd before she could reach him. Everywhere she looked were unfamiliar faces, flashing lights, and strangers laughing, playing, eating. She had never felt so invisible. Then she remembered the group of bikers she had seen earlier. They had been gathered near a bar at the end of the boardwalk. Her mom had even nodded to them, while other parents pulled their kids close and whispered warnings. Emma had thought that was strange, but now, standing there scared and alone, it made sense. With a deep breath, Emma began pushing through the crowd, heading toward the Rusty Compass, the bar where the bikers had gathered. As she moved, carnival sounds faded into the background, replaced by the rumble of engines and the low buzz of rock music. Outside the bar stood a dozen men and women wearing patched leather vests. Their appearances were tough: tattoos, scars, road-worn faces. But one man stood out, tall, with a thick gray beard and deep smile lines around his eyes. He was speaking with a woman who had streaks of silver in her dark braid. Emma hesitated. The memory of her mother's rule clashed with the fear gripping her stomach. Should she really do this? Maybe she had misunderstood. Maybe she should just keep searching. But then she remembered how certain her mother had always sounded. Taking another breath, she stepped forward and tugged on the gray-bearded man's vest. "Excuse me," she said, barely above a whisper. He did not hear her. She tried again, louder this time. "Excuse me." He turned, and for a moment his expression was sharp, until he saw her. Instantly, concern replaced the gruffness. He knelt so that his large frame was eye level with her. "Hey there, little lady," he said gently. "You all right?" "I cannot find my mom," Emma said, tears starting to fall. "She told me if I ever got lost, to find someone with motorcycle patches." His eyebrows lifted, but he nodded like it made perfect sense. "Your mom sounds like a smart woman." "I'm Tom. What is your name?" "Emma Taylor. My mom's name is Maria Taylor. She has curly brown hair and a red jean jacket." Tom stood and let out a sharp whistle that sliced through the noise of the boardwalk. Instantly, every biker nearby turned his way. "Missing parent situation," he announced. "Little Emma here cannot find her mom." Maria Taylor, brown curls, red denim jacket. What happened next would remain etched in Emma's memory forever. Without a single question, the bikers sprang into action. The woman with the silver-streaked braid knelt beside Emma. "I'm Nora," she said. "I will stay here with you while everyone else finds your mom." "Okay," Emma nodded. Tom turned to the others like a general giving orders. "Chris, check the midway. Lena and Mike, search the food court. Tony, go check the tilt-a-whirl and Ferris wheel. Phones on Channel 3, look for Maria Taylor. Let's move." In minutes, the group had split and dispersed into the carnival, scanning every face and alley. Nora stayed with Emma on a nearby bench, offering quiet reassurance. "Your mom taught you to come to us?" Nora asked, clearly touched. Emma nodded. "She said you helped her once. A long time ago, before I was born." Nora exchanged a knowing glance with one of the others. Did she say how? "Number just that you made sure she was safe." "Well," Nora said, wrapping an arm gently around Emma, "we are really glad she remembered. Most people wouldn't have." While they waited, the remaining bikers at the rusty compass subtly formed a loose circle around the bench. One handed Emma a fresh scoop of strawberry ice cream to replace her ruined cotton candy. Two others stood near the entrance, keeping an eye on anyone approaching. They did not look threatening, just alert, protective. "Do not worry, kiddo," an older biker with a white beard said. "If your mom is anywhere on this boardwalk, we will find her." And they did. Meanwhile, Maria was in a panic. The moment she realized Emma was missing, she began searching every ride, every booth, calling out her daughter's name with growing desperation. Her heart pounded as her mind filled with every parent's worst nightmare. Her little girl lost in a crowd, scared, vulnerable. She had taught Emma what to do. She had made sure the lesson was unforgettable. Still, the idea of her daughter wandering alone among strangers sent a chill through her. She shoved aside the fear and pressed on. Eventually, she found a police officer talking casually with a carnival vendor. "My daughter is missing," Maria interrupted, her voice trembling. "She's 7. Brown curly hair, red shirt, jeans. We got separated near the funhouse." The officer, name tag reading Officer David Simmons, sighed and reached for his radio with all the urgency of someone asked to refill paperwork. "Name and description again?" Maria repeated herself, nearly shouting over the carnival noise. Simmons finally began to speak into his radio, but his tone lacked any real concern. "We'll put out an alert, ma'am," he said. "But honestly, she's probably just wandered off. Happens all the time at events like this." Before Maria could respond, a stir in the crowd caught her attention. A large man in a leather vest was moving quickly but deliberately through the people, heading straight toward her. "Excuse me," Maria said, leaving Officer Simmons behind. She moved quickly to intercept the man. "Are you Maria Taylor?" he asked as she approached. "Yes." Relief surged through her. "Have you seen Emma?" "She found us," the man replied. "Smart kid. Remembered what you taught her." "I'm Tom. She's safe. Nora's with her back at the Rusty Compass." Tom was already speaking into his radio, alerting the others that the mother had been found. As Maria followed him through the crowd, she caught a glimpse of the patch on his vest, a phoenix rising from a wrench. The exact same emblem she had seen through rain-streaked windows 12 years ago. "Thank you," she said, voice cracking. I cannot believe she remembered. "Good thing she did," Tom replied. "Most people teach their kids to stay far away from folks like us." "Most people do not know what I know," Maria said quietly. When they reached the Rusty Compass, Maria spotted Emma sitting with a woman who had silver streaks in her hair, happily finishing her ice cream. The moment Emma saw her mother, she jumped from the bench and ran. "Mom!" she cried, flinging herself into Maria's arms. Maria held her tight, emotion choking her voice. "You remembered what I told you. The motorcycle people helped me, just like you said they would," Emma mumbled against her shoulder. Around them, the bikers who had been searching now returned. The search was over. Maria looked up, taking in the faces of these men and women who had dropped everything for her child. "I cannot thank you enough," she said. "You did all this for someone you did not even know." "Not exactly strangers," Nora said, stepping closer, watching Maria carefully. "You said we helped you before." Maria studied her. Then it hit. Highway 17. Rain. She had been 3 months pregnant and running from the hospital bed her ex had left her in. They had fixed her car, given her money, shielded her. "You were the one who squeezed my hand," Maria said. "You told me I did not have to go back." "I never forgot that." "And now you are teaching your little girl to trust us too," Nora said, glancing at Emma with a small smile. "Not many would." "You changed my life that night," Maria said. "That's why I made sure Emma knew who to look for." By then, Officer Simmons had wandered over, eyeing the group with suspicion. "Ma'am," he called, "is everything all right here?" "Everything is fine," Maria replied. "These people found my daughter." "These people?" he repeated. "Yes," she said firmly. "They organized a search party and found my daughter in under 20 minutes. They were kind, efficient, and exactly who she needed." Simmons shifted uncomfortably, opened his mouth, as if to argue, then walked away. Tom chuckled. "Some things never change. Now how about we escort you ladies back to your car? Getting late for the little one." Maria nodded gratefully. As they made their way through the boardwalk, the crowd watched. A mother and child flanked by a ring of bikers made a striking picture. Some people pulled their kids closer. Others just stared. But a few smiled quietly, understanding something deeper. Among the onlookers was Harold Baxter, who owned Baxter's Cafe on Main Street. He had always viewed bikers as trouble, warning his staff to watch the register whenever they walked in. But the sight before him made him pause. He did not see thugs. He saw protectors. When one of the bikers caught his eye, he expected a glare. Instead, the man gave a courteous nod. Angels in leather, Harold thought to himself. And for the first time, he almost believed it. By the next morning, word had already spread through Fairhaven. The story of how a group of bikers had come together to find a lost child traveled from one neighbor to another, gaining new details with every retelling. That Saturday, Maria took Emma to Baxter's Cafe for their usual weekend breakfast. They had just settled into a booth when the bell above the door jingled. In walked Tom, Nora, and two other bikers. The entire diner fell silent. Baxter's was a local institution, always busy, always familiar. Everyone knew everyone else, and everyone noticed when people in leather vests stepped inside. The bikers hesitated just inside the doorway, sensing the tension. Maria waved them over. Tom, Nora, come join us. That small invitation broke the stillness. The four bikers made their way to the booth. Tom slid in next to Emma, who immediately grinned and greeted him. Just wanted to check on the little lady, Tom said, his tone light. We're doing great, Maria replied. Thanks to all of you. Harold Baxter approached their table, coffee pot in hand. He paused, then filled their mugs without a word. Heard what you folks did last night, he said, voice gruff. Found that little girl. Just did what needed doing? Nora answered simply. Not everyone would have, Baxter replied, setting the pot down. Most would have kept walking. Breakfast is on the house today. At the counter, Officer Simmons looked up from his coffee, frowning. Careful, Harold. Next thing you know, you'll have motorcycles lining the street and scaring off your regulars. Seems to me, Baxter replied loudly, these folks did a better job finding a lost child than some others I could mention. Simmons flushed, set a few bills on the counter, and left. Over breakfast, Maria shared more of her story, how the bikers had helped her 12 years ago, how their kindness had given her the strength to rebuild her life, go back to school, and return to Fairhaven to raise Emma. I work at the VA clinic now, she said. Probably treated some of your members without even knowing it. Small world, Tom replied. That's actually why we came through town yesterday, Nora added. Annual ride to raise funds for PTSD programs. We're headed to Charleston next weekend. About 50 bikes altogether. 50? Baxter asked, pouring more coffee. Veterans from all over? Tom nodded. Last year we raised almost 30,000. Baxter whistled, clearly impressed. This was not the image he had carried for years. Not even close. By the time the plates were cleared, other diners had gathered near their booth, asking questions, offering thanks, sharing how they had heard the story. The way the bikers had coordinated, how fast they acted, people were astonished. Could have been my granddaughter, an elderly woman said to Nora. She's always wandering off. If she ever does, ma'am, Nora said, smiling gently, tell her to look for the patches. We take care of kids. 3 weeks later, Fairhaven started to look a little different. The Baxter's Cafe sign had been freshly painted. Beneath it, in smaller letters, it now read, All Welcome. The parking lot had been updated with dedicated motorcycle spots. Where once people crossed the street to avoid patched vests, they now nodded or even said hello. And it was more than just friendly breakfasts. When old Mrs. Whitaker's roof began to leak, a group of bikers showed up with tools and supplies and fixed it without asking for a thing. When the elementary school asked for volunteers for a fundraiser, 6 riders turned up to help, flipping burgers and setting up tents. Slowly, but surely, Fairhaven's perception of bikers was changing. Emma now had a special gift from Nora, a small denim vest with a patch that read, Protected by the Road Family. She wore it proudly to Baxter's every weekend, often joining Tom and the others for breakfast. She called them her other family. One Saturday, as Emma chattered about motorcycles, Harold Baxter slid into the booth beside Maria. Never thought I'd see the day, he said, nodding toward the mix of bikers and locals. Used to get nervous seeing those vests. People are often more than they seem, Maria replied. Sometimes it just takes one moment to see it, like a little girl getting lost at a carnival. Funny how life works, Baxter said. Emma's school is having career day next month, Maria said thoughtfully. They're looking for people with unusual jobs. You're thinking what I think you're thinking, Baxter asked. Maria smiled. I think kids might benefit from meeting the real people behind the leather vests, don't you? A month after the carnival, career day arrived at Fairhaven Elementary. In a classroom full of wide-eyed second graders, Tom stood tall in his leather vest covered with patches. But today, those patches did not look intimidating. They looked like stories. Tom spoke gently as he pointed to each patch, explaining its meaning. One boy raised his hand and asked, Are bikers bad guys? Tom knelt down so he could look the child in the eye. We are just regular people who love motorcycles, he said. And whenever we see someone who needs help, especially a kid, we always stop. That is our most important rule. In the back of the room, Maria watched with tears in her eyes as Emma stood proudly next to Tom. This is my friend Tom, Emma said. He has patches and promises, and he keeps both. Outside the classroom, sunlight glinted off a row of parked motorcycles in front of the school. To many passing by, they still looked imposing. But to one little girl with wild curls and a mother who remembered a rainy night 12 years ago, they meant something entirely different. They were not strangers, not threats. They were unexpected guardians who had become family, not once, but twice. Because sometimes the scariest looking angels do not have wings. Sometimes they wear leather. And though no one said it aloud, everyone in that school knew the truth. That night at the carnival, a little girl had not only found her mother, she had found her second family. If this story moved you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Do not forget to check out the next video now playing on your screen. See you in the next one.